Why haven't we been back to the moon? It's been over 50 years. If we could do it with the 1960s tech, then we should be able to get back there. Well, I'm going to show you why we haven't been back to the moon. A spoiler alert, it's not because we never went. Here's a list of 5 reasons why we've not gone back to the moon. I'll briefly talk about each one. First is technology. Popular among deniers is the interview with Don Petit, a NASA astronaut.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
He states we don't have the technology anymore. There's an important distinction to make here. Technology, according to Merriam-Webster definition, has, among others, these 2 definitions. First, it's the practical application of scientific knowledge, especially in a particular area. Second, a machine, piece of equipment, method, etc., that is created by the practical application of scientific knowledge. The deniers want to think the first definition is what he was referring to. Well, it's not. It was the second. He's referring to the physical technology. He even said we destroyed it. You can't easily destroy scientific knowledge. He is referring to the infrastructure, such as the production lines that build the components, such as the Saturn F5's F1 and J2 engines, the IBM computers used in several aspects of the mission, the subcontractors such as Douglas Aircraft Company, IBM, and North American Aviation, who have all moved on to more modern technology than what was used in the Apollo missions. He's also referring to the human skills required to make it all come together. The specific craftsmanship that was used in these missions is long since gone with many of the people that use them. Next, let's talk about desire. In the late 50s and early 60s, the Soviet Union was beating the US in every milestone. They were the first to place an artificial satellite into orbit with Sputnik in 1957. They were first to put a man, Yuri Gagarin, into orbit in 1961. They had the first man-made object reach the moon's surface with Luna 2 in 1959. These are only a few of the Soviet Union's amazing accomplishments. So in 1961, the US President, John F. Kennedy, delivered his now famous speech.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
If there was anything that speech created, it was desire. If you're enjoying this kind of content and want to see more, a like and subscribe really helps the channel grow, and it lets me keep making videos like this. Sort of related to that desire was risk. The desire to get to the moon first caused the Apollo missions to put success ahead of risk in many circumstances. There were Cold War stakes at play, and we were willing to accept the risk to get to the moon first. Those risks would not be acceptable today. Next is focus. After the extremely expensive and risky Apollo missions, focus shifted to many other projects like the manned space stations and the shuttle missions. There were also many other missions that involved studying Earth, the moon, the sun, the asteroid belt, and every other planet in the solar system. It is truly mind-boggling how many missions NASA has embarked on. They are only recently moving back to manned missions to the moon, but this time it's not the goal to go to the moon. The goal is to set up long-term habitats for scientific study. And NASA isn't alone. Several companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, as well as multiple countries such as India and China, are doing the same thing. Seems the moon is currently trending. And finally, we have the budget. This is actually pretty simple. The total budget for the Apollo missions, adjusted for inflation, of course, was about $300 billion with a B dollars. Sure, we could recreate the technology used in the Apollo missions, but the cost would be staggering. It would be much cheaper to use today's technology to basically start over. And that's what we're doing with the Artemis missions. When budget is a concern, we find ways to improve efficiency, and newer technologies help us with that. The final take is this. How you decipher this data comes down to two choices. On the one hand, You can accept these logical explanations of why we haven't been back to the moon. Or on the other hand, you can believe that everything NASA did in the Apollo missions was faked and we can't go back because we never went to start with. That's your choice to think that. But if you do, keep in mind this fakery would have had to be supported and kept quiet by about 375,000 people who worked on these missions. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, or if you disagree with anything I've said, comment below and we'll talk about it. So please check out this video. It's another good one with some cool science. And as always, thank you very much.